Rugby Report, Japan 2019 with Betfred. Hello and welcome to the Rugby Report, Japan 2019 with Betfred, and in association with our friends at Rugby United. Great to have those guys on board, and we hope you're going to enjoy the content that is to come over the course of the next 8 weeks. My name's Nick Heath.
And I'm Tom May.
And we're going to be here providing you with regular bulletins, insights to our experiences in Japan, because we're both travelling over there, but crucially, some match previews and reviews and plenty of special guests. We want it to be a bite-sized catch-up of the latest news, and we'll be bringing that to you just a couple of times a week. You can maybe see us as the canapé, the bowl food, the easy-to-digest snack that'll keep you abreast of everything that's going on in Japan. Now, there may be several of you out there who have no idea who the two of us are, so welcome to what's going to be a fun 8 weeks. My name's Nick Heath, commentator on rugby for about the last 10-12 years, working as a rugby journalist as well, looking forward to being out there for the group stages of the World Cup, and Tom May, former England centre. What are you going to be getting up to?
I am commentating on the radio.
Not jealous at all that I didn't get that gig. Carry on.
I am working for TalkSport on the ground out there, which should be fantastic.
Very good.
And I'm also producing this delightful podcast with you.
Indeed you are, yeah. Looking forward to getting through a good bit of analysis and preview, and indeed, as we said, getting a few friends to contribute as well. You should be hearing from some top names over the course of the next 8 weeks and finding out what we get up to in our various locations around Japan. It should be a good bit of fun. So this first episode is largely going to be a preview to Pools A and B. Then we'll have another episode for you coming up pretty soon, within the next day or two, which is then going to cover Pools C and D. We'll be looking forward to the Japan-Russia opener, and then we will have an episode that covers all of those ridiculous games that are taking place over the opening weekend. If somehow you haven't looked at the fixtures for the opening weekend, Tom, one word on what it's looking like?
Incredible.
Yep.
If you're a fan.
Well, yeah.
Horrible if you're a player.
Indeed. And of course, we should thank our sponsors, Betfred. Delighted to have them on board. The Rugby Report is sponsored by Betfred. Bet on all the action from Japan. There's a host of offers available with Betfred over the course of the tournament, including double delight on all home nations games. Back the correct first try scorer, and if he crosses the line again, they'll double his odds. Whenever you bet, Betfred. 18 and over, begambleaware.org, select matches only, maximum stake supply. When the fun stops, stop. So let's crack into it then. Pool A, Ireland, Scotland, Japan, Russia, Samoa. Pool B, New Zealand, South Africa, Italy, Namibia and Canada. Two teams ultimately going through from each pool. Ireland, Scotland, Japan, Russia, Samoa. Tell me why it's not Ireland and Scotland going through, Tom.
I can't tell you why it won't be Ireland, because I think they will go through.
Fine.
I can tell you why it might not be Scotland.
Always making friends with the Scots, our Tom May.
I really do think that Japan will be looking to try and knock over some Tier 1 teams. I think they're hunting Tier 1 scalps. They come into this competition as Pacific Nations champions. They've got a great record against Tier 2 nations. They've won 17 and just lost 1. And I like the balance that they've got of experienced players, the likes of Shota Hori and Fumiaki Tanaka at 9 especially. Mm-hmm. Their back row is explosive, and their coaches in Tony Brown and Jamie Joseph, have got a lot of experience themselves.
Michael Leach, their talisman.
Yeah, exactly. I think they've obviously done it before against South Africa in Brighton in that game.
Yeah, we were there.
And I don't know. I just think, I think it's a big occasion for them on the opening game of the tournament. I think if Ireland beat Scotland in that first weekend, then you may well find that Japan comes sniffing blood.
Well, yeah, certainly. You could imagine that. I mean, Ireland, yeah, their run of games, Scotland, then they play Japan, then Russia, and then Samoa. But Scotland face Ireland. If they were to lose that, they've then got a tough game to regroup for against Samoa, and Samoa are going to fancy a bit of a punch up at that one, certainly. Then Russia, and then Japan. So if Scotland have wobbled in any way ahead of that game, the Japanese are going to be right up for that last pool game.
Yeah, definitely. I think Samoa, they sort of disappoint a bit, don't they? They've got the players. You look at their squad and you're like, wow, these guys can do something. Mm-hmm. They've not beaten a Tier 1 nation since June 2014, and that was Italy.
Yeah.
They had their opportunity in the last World Cup. They butchered the worst 2-on-1 I've ever seen. To be fair, if my 9-year-old butchered it like that, he would be getting a bit of a clip around the ear as well.
I mean, they've got some decent players. They've got a bit of experience. The likes of TJ Ioane in the back row, who I think stepped me in a touch tournament in Manchester last year. At least he was in front of me 1 minute and then not in front of me the next. So unless he teleported, I'm not entirely sure what happened. Tim Nanai Williams, another one of those with perhaps a few less miles on the clock, but they just, as much as we see these Islander teams giving their players to other teams across the world, the likes of Fiji, whatever, Fiji just, you get a sense, we'll come on to them I'm sure in the next preview, but you get a sense that they're beginning to work out how to begin to play together as a team and get the right things in place. But Samoa have maybe dissipated a bit.
Yeah, I think they've got a fair few political battles that are going on away from the field of rugby. So, it's a pretty ugly recent record that they've had. Mm-hmm. I think that game against Australia in the last sort of warm-up that they had was an okay performance by them. I think probably Australia took them slightly lighter than they should have.
Yeah.
I think if anyone's going to get out of that Pool A, it would be Japan ahead of Scotland. I don't think Samoa would have the strength to do it.
Yeah, okay. An honourable mention to Russia as well, of course. They have a former Northampton State in there, Vasily Artemyev.
Got a good story about him, actually.
Oh, have you?
Oh, yeah. I don't know why, but coaches are obsessed with doing wrestling in pre-season. I used to hate it.
Yeah. Baby oil, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, no, we had clothes on.
Oh, right.
But I always used to get paired with Vaz, and he's not big, but he's made of steel. Yeah, and this guy used to just launch me around one of the bars that they put these crash mats in. It was the most painful hour of my life, and I was just like, "What am I doing here?"
Excellent.
He is one to watch though, from a Russian point of view.
Yeah, and it's your old mate Lynn Jones from your days at London Welsh who is in charge of that Russian side. It's not going to be easy for them, is it?
No, he's come out and said, we've got a mountain to climb.
Yeah.
Slight understatement. I think they're coming in on the back of a couple of admin errors from the Spanish and also the Romanians.
Yeah, and the Belgians as well, who were all in amongst the mix.
Let's not go there.
Yeah, well, I was fortunate enough to commentate on Italy, Russia, and it was pretty much one-way traffic. But I know Lynn Jones was talking about the fact that they only ever get the chance to run against themselves, given how remotely they're located. So the chance to run against anyone that wasn't their own team was a real opportunity for him to actually work out what the first choice 15 were.
Well, he's made some, changes recently, hasn't he? And he made it in a fixture against Jersey, who are obviously the championship side here in the UK, and they got turned over. Yeah. So slightly disappointing from that point of view. Okay,
so the two teams coming out of Pool A for you will be?
I know Scottish people aren't massive fans of me already, but I'm going to say Ireland. I'm going to say Japan.
Well, it would be great for the tournament, wouldn't it? All right, let's go with that. Into Pool B then. New Zealand, South Africa, Italy, Namibia and Canada as part of your preview here on the Rugby Report Japan 2019 with Betfred. Now, New Zealand and South Africa all day long. Surely Italy, Namibia and Canada looked at the pool draw and went, okay, we're going for a month's holiday in Japan and we've got to play a couple of games along the way before we're coming home, right?
If you had to play New Zealand, South Africa on holiday, that's not the funnest.
Wouldn't be
2
the
weeks
sort of holiday
away.
You want, is it?
Look, Namibia, Canada and Italy, they know exactly, I guess, their roles in this tournament. Interesting, Conor O'Shea saying, you don't go into a tournament not thinking you can win.
Yeah.
It's really difficult, isn't it, for those teams? They got no chance of getting out of that pool. But from a player's mindset, from a coaching mindset, you have to prepare right. Otherwise, you get absolutely trounced.
Interestingly, last summer, Italy and Japan played a couple of games against each other, and they went one each. I mean, Conor O'Shea wouldn't expect himself to be plumping for a Japan-esque miracle turnover of South Africa, because they'd see themselves very much as a tier one team. But that's what they're looking for in Pool B. They're going to have to cause a major upset and a major shock against one of the teams that's had the strongest odds over the last 4 years to win it, and now a team that seems to be coming up as new favourites in the Springboks.
Yeah, look, I don't know. Italy are one of those teams, I think, that are static in their development, if not receding slightly. A bit like your hairline.
They got it.
But out of nowhere, I've just noticed that actually. But I think
very good head of hair.
The likes of Georgia and the likes of Japan are those nations that are really making strides in their development. Are actually now knocking on the door of these tier one teams more often than not. And I just see that the Italians' performances over the past few years in the Six Nations has seen them fall by the wayside a lot. You know, you perhaps like to see them turning over the French or the Scottish occasionally. Not that this is all about Scots bashing, but you know, I think
they've got the likes of Pelledri, who I think's been tearing up trees.
Negri as well.
He's looked really good. Yeah, and you know, a big talking point actually on a recent event we were at, Podcast Live together in town. Our friends at the Egg Chasers podcast, they were talking about, you know, whether Sergio Parisse is helpful to an Italian side anymore. And I'm certainly of the view that actually when Parisse's on the field, he's such a talisman, they feel like everything has to go through him. But actually, the likes of Stein, Negri, Pelledri have been working very well as a back row together. That maybe, you know, dare you say it, is an Italian side playing better without Sergio Parisse in the team?
Well, look, take the game at St James's Park where they played at England. When England are at their best, Billy Vanapola is on the front foot and at his best. Now, there were times where some of those guys were knocking the England defenders over. Now, if they want to try and build and develop their game, they have to get on the front foot. So those guys are key to it. Sergio Parisse's ability to knock people over is waning.
Yeah.
But he is no doubt a very good rugby player. He can see things and actually try and get the ball to that space, which is another conundrum they have, in that they need to have the quality of player to do that. Now, he has that. He's just physically perhaps not able to compete that much anymore.
Yeah, okay. So New Zealand, South Africa, that being on the opening weekend is absolutely extraordinary.
Don't miss it.
Yeah, indeed. That match taking place in the International Stadium, Yokohama. And that is just on the 21st. So that's going to be an extraordinary match. It's a ridiculously big game for people to be tuning into.
10:45, I think it is in the morning, which is not a bad... Well, get up, get your coffee and your breakfast, get your cornflakes on your lap and watch South Africa and New Zealand knock bells out of each other.
You can tell you're 40 because I know a load of people that be saying that's enough time to have had your coffee and had your cereal and get down the pub and be having a pint.
Mate, you know, while you're sleeping, having your beauty sleep, I'm up and about. I've got kiddies, mate.
Tom May gets up at about 3 in the morning, but he does go to bed at 4 in the afternoon. So New Zealand against South Africa, a ridiculous game to be being played on the opening weekend, an absolute cracker. It's at 10:45 UK time in the morning, enough time to have your cereal, your orange juice, and then top it up with a pint. There's so much going on in that game, but I know one thing you wanted to point out was what happens if you lose that game.
Yeah, look, New Zealand are 3 times Rugby World Cup champions. I think they go into that game probably as the favourites. But should they lose, then actually the loser of that game has a potentially easier run to the final. Because
I like your theory on what's easier. Go on.
Yeah, yes, I'm now going to annoy Irish people, Welsh.
We're making friends on the Rugby Report.
Exactly.
Carry on.
You know, I think Ireland will get out of their groups first. So I think whoever loses that game would face them in the quarterfinals. Wales, if they top their group, then potentially they could meet them in the semis. And then maybe they would then meet again in the final. These two teams. Wow. You know, I think New Zealand are in a great place, aren't they? If they can manage to leave out the likes of Nani Laumape and Owen Franks, he's a 100-capper. So if you can leave someone like that out, that's an incredible position to be in. But they also bring players that we perhaps haven't heard as much of, like Sevu Reece and George Bridge, just 3 and 5 caps, respectively.
Well, we're starting to see a little bit more of this, aren't we? With Eddie Jones doing it, with Rory McConaughey and Willie Hines, you know, these sorts of players that are coming into sides with less experience, and big players, and an England point of view, Chris Robshaw, Danny Kerr, who are being left out. We're not getting experience just for the sake of bringing an extra 100 caps into a team. People are giving these youngsters a real opportunity. Do you think that sort of average age of World Cup teams is coming down at all? I haven't checked the stats. I just want your gut feel.
I think we're seeing coaches realise that these games are going to be played on fast tracks. They need mobile players. They need fast players. And depending on what balance that Hansen goes for from the All Blacks, you know, I think we could see Sevu Reece or George Bridge starting, which is probably unlike Eddie Jones's first choice. I don't think you're going to see McConaughey starting in the big games, but he will get an opportunity, no doubt.
Yeah, okay. Well, as far as South Africa are concerned, we have been fortunate enough to catch up with a man who has nearly 50 caps for the Springboks. We had an opportunity to speak to Francois Hougaard, who can tell us what he makes of the South African chances at the Rugby World Cup.
Look, it's a really talented bunch of players. You know, a few of the Prem boys that's played in the Prem. Kobus and Faf is over there. Has played some great rugby, and the whole squad is massively talented. They've been doing really well. I think they peaking at the right time, so to say. I think they've had a couple of dodgy games building up, but I think definitely peaking at the right time. I think it's going to come down to who's best on the day. I think any of the top 8 or top 7, 6 countries or sides in the world is going to do really well at a World Cup. I think that's the main stage. That's where you want to shine. I think New Zealand's going to do well. England's going to do really well. Ireland is obviously great. Wales has been playing really well, and in South Africa, France is there, who likes their upsets and semi-finals and that type of thing. So I think at any World Cup or any game there's going to be pressure. You know, I think it's also got to do with who handles it the best and turns that pressure into positive energy and uses it as motivation. So I'm certainly excited to watch the boys and support them and make sure that they hopefully bring that one back to South Africa.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not surprised. That's how you're looking at it. I mean, Faf de Klerk, your position as scrum-half, he's been a revelation in the Premiership, but he's also now become a real heartbeat of the front football that the Springboks are making the most of.
Yeah, no, he's a great player. I mean, it's always good to have, you know, when you play for or compete for a position in a national squad or international for the Springboks or England or whatever, and you know, it's great that both the 9s that's been selected for South Africa is actually in the Prem, and they've been, you know, both thoroughly deserve to be there. They've both played some great rugby, so yeah, happy for them, and I'll be supporting them. Yeah,
I'm working with Tom May, and he's pretty keen on Cheslin Colby as well, so they're making a decent impact.
Yeah, Cheslin is he's unbelievable. I mean, he's a little pocket rocket. I don't think you want to defend him one-on-one. I was with him at the Sevens for the SA Sevens, and he's just unbelievable talent and such a great rugby player. I think he's been doing really well at Toulouse as well. I think he's got the key to the city there. He's been doing really well. So yeah, there's a lot of exciting players, and I think it's going to be a great World Cup to watch.
So good to hear from Francois Hougaard there, and Tom, how has it got to a point where New Zealand have been, you know, the stick-on winners for the last 4 years because they're so good at what they do, but now everybody's talking about the Springboks?
Yeah, I think Rassie Erasmus has gone around his business pretty quietly. He's kept himself under the radar and just looked at exactly how he needed to get his team into the best position possible when we get to this point, and I think they are in the best position possible. I think he's rotated his players throughout the Rugby Championship and they were still able to compete. Let's not forget he sent the first 15 to Wellington ahead of their fixture with the All Blacks, and they were still competing and winning with their, in inverted commas, B team. You know, so I think they're in a good space. They've got great players. I cannot wait to watch Cheslin Colby play. Incredible talent. And I think they're evolving from a team that will just bash you and knock you over to one that can actually, well, do that still, but then move the ball as well.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great game to almost kick off the tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we hope you have enjoyed our preview to Pools A and B. We look forward to you joining us for our preview for Pools C and D, which will be with you in a day or so. So do keep an eye out for that in your inbox. Make sure that you have subscribed to the Rugby Report. And Tom, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And, we will see you next time. The Rugby Report is sponsored by Betfred. Now, me and Tom are really excited for the next few weeks in Japan, and so are Betfred. With special offers on every match at the 2019 tournament, they're as excited as us. From bets on players to special pick your punt markets, they've got you covered. Check out their app or visit one of their 1,600 stores for more information. 18s and over, begambleaware.org. Maximum stakes apply when the fun stops. Stop. This has been a Rugby Media production.